Welcome back. I've got a review for 1971's The American Dreamer, Dennis Hopper. Now, for those of you that were children of the 60s, early 70s, or just fans of Dennis Hopper in general, this is an interesting, I'm not going to call it a documentary, it's more like a mockumentary. I'll leave it up to each individual viewer to decide what we're actually looking at here, but essentially what's happened with this film was lost for a long time, years. The story behind it is fascinating, as is, I think, Dennis Hopper in general, but essentially what happened was after the success of Easy Rider, Universal Studios decided they wanted to give Dennis a lot more money to cash in and make another film. That film being The Last Movie, which is kind of a pet project of Dennis Hopper and a guy named Stuart Stern, the writer. And it was filmed in Peru. So Universal put like $1 million into this and backing Dennis Hopper, but at the same time, an independent film project crew decided they wanted to try to get Hopper to make a documentary. And that's what we have here. In exchange for making this documentary, Universal got rights to prohibit this film from ever being released in theaters. And so back then, you either went the theatrical distribution route, or alternatively, you made films for the college scene, college markets. And it's obviously lower scale, lower budget, lower expectations as far as how much money they were going to make, but you could do that. And that's what this film was. So you had an agreement with the producers and the director of the film that they would only screen this at college campuses. What happened was the film showed and opened in certain theaters in Berkeley around the country, and then it was shown in UCLA, and UCLA apparently advertised the film beyond the college campuses, and Universal got injunctive to release to shut it down and stop it. And Dennis Hopper at the time, because he was tied to Universal's pocketbooks making the Last Movie, had to support that. So essentially the film just got shut down by Universal because of their fear that it would overshadow The Last Movie. I don't know what to make of this film. It's kind of a, I guess from my perspective, it's a parody of Easy Rider, the character that Dennis Hopper created for Easy Rider. It's almost a mockumentary of him as a parody of that character, an extension of that character. Supposedly this is a documentary, and you're seeing Dennis Hopper at his compound in Taos, New Mexico, during the editing process, kind of right in the middle of the last movie. And he's going through all the tropes of Easy Rider. Kind of the hippie outlook on life, pontificating about life, sexual escapades with multiple women, orgies, going out in the desert and shooting guns. He loves to shoot guns. It almost feels like this is not the Dennis Hopper the real Dennis Hopper. I know it's very strange to say that, because it is set up as a documentary and you are seeing Dennis Hopper on screen, but it's almost like he's playing another character. This film as if it's an extension of Easy Rider more than a documentary of his life or at that time. That's the feeling I got from it. It's still very interesting, and Dennis Hopper's a fascinating character, because when you compare this period of time, right after the success of Easy Rider, and then the failed debacle, which was The Last Movie, Dennis Hopper was exiled. I mean, for years and years and years, Hollywood wouldn't touch him. Of course, now it's come full circle. I recently watched Land of the Dead, where he plays almost like a Donald Trump type land baron who's built this huge tower to protect himself and live in luxury from the zombie apocalypse. So is that the real Dennis Hopper? Kind of the cigar smoking, a lot of money, you know, big corporate Dennis Hopper, or is the Dennis Hopper of Easy Rider, as we see here, is that the real Dennis Hopper, or is the truth somewhere in between on those two things? I don't know. You'll have to watch this film and decide for yourself. Or alternatively, is this film just a kind of a self-indulgent ego trip? You definitely get the sense of Dennis Hopper when he compares himself to Orson Welles. A little bit of we're getting on a little bit of an ego trip here. Fascinating movie. It's a short watch. It's like 90 minutes. Actually, it's only like 80 minutes. It thought lost for a long, long time, 20 some years. So if you have the film is beautifully restored. And apparently they've got a little 7-minute long preservation featurette in here with special features, and there's a 30-minute making of featurette that talks about the guy that actually did this, Lawrence Schiller and Kit Carson, the co-directors, kind of revisiting American Dreamer, 40 some years later. Very interesting stuff. Very, very interesting stuff. Highly recommend it, particularly if you are a fan of Easy Rider or Dennis Hopper in general. This is a film that you are going to want to see. Etiquette Pictures, in partnership with the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis, restored this film on a 2K restoration, and they did a wonderful, wonderful job. It's region free. Well, it's A, B, or C, so it should be okay there. It's a Blu-ray DVD combo, and then there's a booklet about the film. This could have been a groundbreaking film at the time of its release, but again, Universal kind of shut it down. But at the time that this film was coming out, there was a huge push for alternative distribution films in the non-theatrical circuit, and I'm referencing Sympathy with the Devil, Godard's film about the Rolling Stones. That film hit the college campuses and was a huge hit about the same time that this was getting made. And had this not been shut down, there's no telling how this film would have stacked up in history compared to some other of those college theater releases. Anyway, I thought it was a very interesting film. I'm a big fan of Dennis Hopper, and I do recommend this release. Fascinating stuff. Let me know if you've seen it or what you think about it. I appreciate you watching. Thanks.